Swear.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, would you state your name, your current profession, and give the jury, please, your educational and professional background?
My name is Arthur Joseph Botting. That's B-O-T-T-I-N-G. I'm a physician. I specialize in pathology. I'm formerly the medical examiner for the 7th Medical Examiners District, Florida. I graduated from New York Medical College in 1960, following which I did a rotating internship at the Royal Victoria Hospital in Montreal, Canada. After this, I did a 4-year pathology residency at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And following that, I was certified by the American Board of Pathology in anatomic, clinical, radioisotope, chemical, and forensic pathology. I am licensed to practice in the state of Florida.
Sir, has your specialty for the past years been that of a forensic pathologist?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been actually practicing as a forensic pathologist?
Approximately 12 years.
And can you tell the jury what a forensic pathologist does? How is that different from you are a regular medical doctor as well, are you not?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury what forensic pathology consists of and how that's different from the practice of other medical arts?
Well, forensic pathology is the application of pathology, which is the study of abnormal tissue and organ function to questions at the law. Basically, what I did in the years that I practiced forensic pathology was to investigate violent and suspicious death.
All right, sir. And did you have occasion to practice primarily in Volusia County for the past, what, 12 years?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we would respectfully offer Dr. Arthur Botting as a specialist in the field of forensic pathology.
Your Honor, we do not desire any voir dire of this witness.
Let's proceed. Dr. Botting, did there come a time that you performed an autopsy here in Volusia County on an individual that was identified to you as Mallory?
Yes, sir, a 51-year-old white male.
All right, sir. Can you tell the jury, please, what procedures you followed, what observations you made, and what your conclusions were?
We received the body in the clothing in which it was found. It had been placed in a body bag, a plastic body bag, and it was brought to the morgue at the Halifax Hospital in Daytona Beach. We proceeded to remove the body from the bag and to examine it in the clothed state. We made our observations on the clothing, and then proceeded to remove the clothing and to examine the exterior of the body.
All right, sir, may I interrupt you just momentarily? I would ask you to look at Exhibit double H for identification. Does this appear to be the shirt with which the subject was clothed at the time you began your examination?
Objection, leading.
Objection, overruled.
Your Honor, I would object to publishing to the jury as well.
Well, you want to have, you look to take it outside and do it so he can make a determination who it says, or would it be convenient if you do it right here while we're on the record?
Your Honor, my objection stands.
All right, your objection is overruled. Examine the item.
Yes, sir. This is the shirt, or the type of shirt that was.
Thank you. All right, after the shirt was removed, sir, could you tell the jury what you did next?
We examined the exterior of the body, and in doing this, we noted that there were gunshot wounds on the upper part of the body. specifically involving the right arm, the right side of the chest, and the left side of the chest. These were both on the front part of the chest. The body was partially decomposed. The head and neck had been reduced to skeleton remains, and the upper part of the chest was, the soft tissues and the skin were undergoing degeneration.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I would like you to look at State's Exhibit M, Composite 4, for identification, and ask if you recognize what that photograph purports to represent.
This is a frontal view of the upper portion of the body upon which we did the autopsy. I think that
All right, sir.
describes the photo.
Thank you. And is there an identification number which was affixed there for the purpose of preserving the integrity of that body for record purposes?
Yes, sir.
And is that identification number consistent with the autopsy about which you are now testifying?
Yes, sir. 89428.
Thank you. All right, sir. Could you tell the jury, please, what you did next and what your observations were?
After we made our observations of the exterior of the body, we proceeded to do our dissection. We opened the body cavities. We took each of the organs, examined them individually, and recorded our observations.
All right, sir. Can you tell the jury, particularly with regard to the any trauma that appeared to have been inflicted upon the body prior to the death of the individual, Richard Charles Mallory?
Immediately prior? I don't think I understand the question.
Yes. Could you determine whether or not the person you autopsied had received any gunshot wounds?
Yes, sir. On the front of the chest, on the left side, 54 inches above the sole of the left foot, we noted a gunshot entrance wound, and upon opening the chest cavity, we found that this bullet had gone through the front of the chest wall, gone through the underlying left lung, gone through the back wall of the chest, the rear wall of the chest. It had perforated the shoulder blade, and we recovered a .22 caliber bullet in the soft tissues lying above the shoulder blade. Then on the opposite side, on the right arm, at roughly the same level, we noted a gunshot entrance wound, and the bullet had perforated the soft parts of the right arm. It didn't strike the bone or anything that would have deflected it from its true course. It exited the inner aspect of the arm and then struck the right side of the chest, and we recovered a bullet in the soft tissues on the front chest wall. In roughly the same area, there was a second bullet that had entered the skin at that point. It went through the chest wall. It struck the left lung, exited the left lung, and we recovered a bullet in the left chest cavity, and that's as far as that bullet went.
And where did that one enter? One you just...
That entered the right side of the chest on the front. A fourth bullet had been recovered lying free in the body bag.
With regard to the state of decomposition of the upper part of the body, doctor, and especially this area up around the neck and the upper shoulders, were you able to see any wounds in that area, or with decomposition have hindered that?
There was no evidence of any wounding to the spine, the bony structure of the neck, and this essentially was all that remained. So to answer your question directly, we didn't have any tissue there to notice the effects of a bullet wound.
So if a bullet had gone up into the neck area but not in the bone, you wouldn't be able to even track it because of decomposition.
That's correct.
Objection leading, Your Honor.
Objection overruled.
Were you able to determine a cause of death with regard to the deceased Richard Charles Maurer?
Yes, sir. The two bullets that struck the left lung caused a tremendous amount of hemorrhage, and that was the fatal mechanism.
Right, sir. And being a medical doctor, and particularly a forensic pathologist, I would like you to, if you can, describe the mechanism of death with hemorrhaging in the lungs. How does that come about?
The
Objection overruled.
lung has a very rich blood supply, and when the bullet struck it, it tore up a lot of small blood vessels, and this allowed the rapid escape of a large amount of blood, plus the fact that once the chest wall and or the lung were perforated, this would allow pressurized air to enter the chest cavity, which is normally sealed and acts as a vacuum, and this would impair respirations as well. So you've got two very basic things working against the normal function of the lung, vital functions.
Could you describe what is occurring physiologically to the individual's body? How does death?
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection overruled.
There is a point that is reached where so much blood is lost that you cannot maintain an efficient and effective circulation for the brain and for the heart, and life ceases.
Was there any wound to the heart or the major arteries that you could see?
No, sir.
So these were, as far as you can determine, strictly lung wounds.
That was essentially all we found.
By the nature of the wounds, would there be any impairment to respiration?
Objection has been answered, Your Honor.
Overruled. Answer the question if you can.
Yes, sir. As I say, the left chest cavity is ruptured, and air is allowed to come in under pressure, and this will cause the lung to collapse.
And what effect would that have upon the respiration of the individual?
Well, it'll significantly impair the ability to move air in and out of the lungs and to ventilate.
And would you describe to the jury, in your opinion as a forensic pathologist, was death instantaneous?
No, sir. No, you have to allow the blood to escape, and that takes a certain amount of time.
With regard to the individual, what would the effect upon the individual's ability to breathe be?
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection overruled.
It would be impaired
But they would still be able to breathe
to breathe.
for a while.
Yes, sir. In fact, I would think that They would be trying very desperately to breathe under the circumstances.
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection overruled.
Do you have an opinion based upon your medical experience and training as to how long an individual, or in fact in particular Mr. Mallory, would live with these wounds before he would die?
Objection speculative, Your Honor.
Within a reasonable span of time.
I would say roughly 10 to 20 minutes.
Sir, I would like you to examine exhibits GG for identification and ask if you can recognize the containers and the objects contained therein.
The first container has the number ME89428. It has the date 12/14/89, and it's listed as John Doe number 13. It also has the notation body bag, and it has my initials AJB on there.
And what do those markings indicate to you, sir?
Well, this is the routine that was followed. We would label the containers with the autopsy accession number, followed by the name, if known, on the label, and the date when the specimen was collected. I would put my initials on there to show that I was the one who had placed the bullet in the container, and of course the designation of the area from which it was retrieved.
All right, sir, and would you examine the contents of that container?
It's a deformed, non-jacketed 22 caliber bullet.
And where did that come from?
This was recovered from the body bag.
Sir, would you look at the next container and examine the contents of it, please?
The next container has the number 89428, the name John Doe number 13, the date 12/14/89. It has my initials AJB, and it was recovered from the left chest.
Would you examine the contents, please?
A deformed, non-jacketed 22 caliber bullet.
Thank you. Would you examine the next container?
This one is labeled ME89 428, John Doe number 13, 12/14/89. My initials are on the label, and this is labeled right chest wall.
Sure. Would you examine the contents, please?
A deformed, non-jacketed 22 caliber bullet.
And the fourth container.
The label states ME89 428, John Doe number 13, 12/14/89. My initials are on the label, and this one is left posterior scapula.
Can you describe to the jury where that location is, left posterior scapula.
The scapula is the shoulder blade.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
May the doctor step down for just a moment?
Sir.
Would you, Doctor, please? Could you use me as a body to demonstrate to this jury that last bullet recovery and entrance point? Turn to him, please. Yes, sir. If you-
Once more. This area here is where the scapula is, and roughly in this area here is where we recovered the bullet. It was between the skin and the bony structure.
Thank you, Doctor. And with regard to the 4 containers, or the 4 bullets, which you just exhibited from those containers, those were 4 projectiles removed from the body or the body bag of this autopsy.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we would offer the 4 containers with their contents and evidence at this time.
Counsel? The test we received the car, the proper number.
Evidence Exhibit 21.
Doctor, with regard to the Exhibit M for identification, composite 4, which is the photograph that is before you, does that photograph demonstrate the state of decomposition of the neck and upper shoulder area as it appeared at the time of the autopsy by which you testified?
Yes, sir.
And also, sir, do you notice what appears to be a oval-shaped wound to the right chest in the near, or what appears to be an oval-shaped wound to the right chest in the vicinity of the right nipple on that photograph?
To the right of the right nipple, yes, sir.
And is that consistent with the testimony about which you just testified, or the autopsy about which you just testified?
Yes, sir.
And would that photograph be of assistance to you if you demonstrated that photograph to the jury at this time,
Objection, Your Honor.
explaining your testimony?
Hadn't been offered, that was just, not fucking let it show it to this.
Would that be of assistance in demonstrating the testimony which you have delivered to the jury at this time?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we would offer the photograph and evidence.
I don't want to take that we're in with those. You can state your record there if you want to be adhering to your amount of less work, but there's no more pitch that counts. Getting that privilege and that workers having a difficult time keeping accurate. You have the sections today.
You know, we need to take a look at the photograph.
All right, sir, you can photograph.
Your Honor, we would object to the photograph under 9404 on relevancy grounds, on the fact that there are other items of evidence the state's been employed to depict the same thing, and on its lack of probative value under the circumstances.
Leave the objection.
Thank you, Judge.
May proceed, Mr. Tanner.
Would you track verbally for the jury the trajectory of these 4 bullets through the body from your autopsy protocol? In other words, again, would it be of assistance if you could demonstrate that either from photograph or from using, I was going to say a dummy, a live individual?
Perhaps I could stand up.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead, stand up for that.
Okay. May he do that, Your Honor?
There is a bullet wound on the front of the left side of the chest, which the course of it was roughly from front to back without any deviation from side to side. This is the bullet that went through the front of the chest wall, through the left lung, through the rear chest wall, through the shoulder blade, and was recovered roughly back here. There was another bullet wound that struck the outside part of the right arm, went through the soft tissues of the right arm, exited the inner surface of the arm, and then struck the right side of the chest. And this was recovered roughly in this location in the fat that lies below the skin. A second entrance wound was present on the front of the right front of the chest, and this bullet went through the skin, the fat below the skin, the chest wall, and was traveling from right to left and on a slight course of front to back. After going through the chest wall, struck the left lung and exited the lung, and then just had spent its energy and was left lying in the left chest cavity. The fourth bullet that was recovered, as I say, was just lying free in the body bag.
May I approach the witness, John?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I would ask you to examine State's Exhibit II for identification and ask if you recognize that document.
This is the death certificate that I completed after doing the autopsy on Mr. Mallory.
Your Honor, please, we'd offer the death certificate and evidence at this time.
Counsel reviewed this evidence.
We have, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor, it's, there's no tremendous relevancy to it, but there's no tremendous objection to it either.
There's no objection, did you say, or you do object?
We'll object on relevancy.
All right, overruled.
Thank you.
Let the item and mark the match properly.
State's Exhibit 22.
Your Honor, I have no further questions for Dr. Body. Thank you very much, sir.
Counsel, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Doctor, I just want to make one thing perfectly clear. When you were demonstrating with Mr. Tanner the wound to the back, the scapula there, that in fact is where the bullet ended up, is it not?
Yes, sir.
The actual entrance wound was from the front.
Yes, sir.
The shirt, which was shown to you earlier, did you test residual body fluids on this shirt?
No, sir.
Did you test for semen or blood or anything like that?
No, sir.
And did you check the size of that shirt?
No, sir.
Did you determine the size of the decedent in this case?
No, sir.
So you never made any effort to determine the size, the weight, the height, the girth of the decedent?
That's correct.
And you, in fact, did not draw any diagrams or anything in your autopsy report, did you?
No, sir. Routinely, I don't.
Other examiners do, in fact, do that, do they not?
Objection, Your Honor.
You can answer.
Is that not fairly standard for a medical examiner to draw a diagram indicating the entrance and exit wounds?
I don't know whether I'd use the term standard, but I know that it's popular.
Right. You never visited the site where this body was recovered, did you?
That's right.
And based on your testing on this particular individual, you could not determine the length of time that the body had been there, could you?
That's correct.
And you could not determine from any of your tests and any of the things that you did the position of the assailant relative to the decedent, could you?
That's correct.
You spoke before about, I think Mr. Tanner, when he had you do that demonstration, said something about the last bullet recovery. And what he meant by that, of course, was that's the last bullet you recovered.
That's correct.
Right? You can't determine the sequence of shots, can you?
That's correct.
And you cannot determine what was happening between each shot, can you?
No, sir.
You don't know what the decedent was doing between each shot, do you?
No, sir.
Also, because of the state of decomposition, you cannot ascertain whether or not there was any head trauma. True?
I didn't see any marks on the skull, and when we opened the skull cavity, we didn't see any evidence of any hemorrhage in the cavity. I can say that much.
Clearly, you can suffer a head injury without those indicators, though, can you not?
Yes, sir.
And you've already testified you couldn't determine whether anything had happened to the neck area. True?
That's correct.
Now, you also did a report on the, or did a toxicology report on this individual, did you not?
Yes, sir, blood alcohol.
All right. And in fact, you were able to determine that the individual had been drinking.
Yes, sir.
In fact, you were able to determine that the individual would have been under the influence of alcohol at the time of his death. True?
That's debatable.
Okay. You determined the blood alcohol level at the time of your autopsy to be a 0.05, correct?
That's correct.
And do you recall stating in your deposition that that means to you that the individual would have been under the influence?
He would have just been at the lower limits where the influence would be recognized.
I take it from your answer that that means he would have been under the influence.
He could
even at
have.
the lower limits.
He could have.
All right. Now, this body had decomposed somewhat, had it not?
Yes, sir.
And is it your medical opinion that the fact that decomposition would have no impact on the blood alcohol level of the deceased?
That's right.
Decomposition indicates the presence of bacteria, does it not?
Among other things.
And bacteria break down alcohol, do they not?
Yes, they do, but on the other side of the coin, there are some bacteria that can produce ethanol.
But your testimony is it had no effect.
That's right. I didn't see anything on looking at that blood sample that would have made me believe that there were bacteria growing in it.
I have no further questions for now.
Mayor? Yes, Your Honor, we would like to offer the shirt and evidence. I forgot to ask that that be given an evidentiary tag.
Counsel,
No objection, Your Honor.
that hasn't been received in Mark.
And Your Honor, with regard to the one photograph that is thus far not been allowed in evidence, I'd like to have it marked.
Yes, for identification.
I'd like to make a circle on it.
Oh, all right, go ahead. For identification.
Dr. Body, with regard to state's composite M4, if you would you just, with a hard pen, so it'll show up on the photograph, place a mark around the
bullet wound to the right front chest. Yes, sir. If it's hard enough to impress, it doesn't.
Objection.
Only for different occasions, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bonner. Your Honor, we have no further questions.
Need to keep the witness or maybe discharge.
Subject to report.
Ready to stand at, give the telephone number to the defense.